guys, Calxiyn and Hunter here. If you guys enjoyed this video, you guys should become patrons over on Patreon to support the channel. But for now, you guys should subscribe for daily RWBY videos. Anyways, so we're going to be talking about RWBY today. I had this theory a while ago.
Oh, is it unlike those other days where we don't talk about RWBY? I feel like every day we're together, we talk about RWBY. It's like in this time, we're going to talk about the socio-economical impacts that the Brexit deal will have on Wales.
No.
Just something very bizarre and entirely insignificant.
Maybe another time.
Maybe another time.
Maybe the Calxiyn and Hunter podcast, but yeah.
Maybe the Calxiyn arbitrarily one about economics. Please continue.
I had this theory a while ago, but basically my idea is that Ironwood would find out about the Silveride powers and start taking DNA from RWBY and cloning her. So they
Imagine
could make,
if they
like,
had a
an
clone
army.
of rubies, but they all had silver eyes.
Or
sorry, a clone of pennies, but they all had silver eyes.
Well, that's what I was sort of thinking, is that could you put DNA into a robot and have that DNA function the same way that it would as a human?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so basically my idea would be Ironwood would sort of see RWBY as what could save them if they could make a lot of rubies. Because if you could make more silver-eyed warriors, right, that would work. But it's like, can you even do that? Like, where does science sort of conflict with magic on that one?
Well, he already made a penny, so
because
like...
silver eyes were about, like, the power from the god of light and all that. So could it be copied? Like, or maybe silver eyes just channel the god of light's power, but don't necessarily have it in them, like, all the time. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So it's more like a, how am I supposed to say it? Like a magical object, like it's a funnel, I guess? Like...
Conduit?
The best way to explain it is a light switch. So the light is always in the bulb, but sometimes you have to turn the light on and off, and then that's when the electricity comes and powers the light bulb. Like, that's how I see RWBY's eyes.
The light is always in the bulb.
No, I mean, the bulb is always in the socket. The bulb is always in the ceiling.
The bulb is connected to electricity.
Yes.
The
switch turns it on.
Yes.
And so that's what I'm thinking of the silver eyes as.
I just really love the sentence, no, the light is always in the bulb. I feel like that's something like it would be a really bad dubbing, where like the light is always in you, but they fuck it up and they're like, the light is always in the bulb. Always in the bulb.
Anyway.
That's significantly better than who am I gonna eat ice cream with.
Oh god, stop it. Anyway.
But Sora, I know Goofy should deliver that line, like, oh,
Sora,
the light's always in the bulb. The light's always in the bulb.
Anyway, so my point is that Ironwood gets paranoid and he starts to take RWBY's DNA somehow and tries to make some sort of robot human that can do the same thing as the Silver-Eyed Warrior powers. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But then RWBY would sort of be, like, really freaked out, I guess, because it's like, Maria getting her eyes cut out was enough. Being used, like, biologically, like, to make, like, an army and all that, like, that's pretty disturbing, if I have to say so. So I think that would be really, really interesting, and I've had this theory for a long time, because I'm like, Ironwood could just make more robots, right? And Penny was a robot with an aura, with a soul, and so I don't know how they would recreate this somehow, but if they just, like, took RWBY's DNA and just fast-tracked a lot of clones and all that, then they would have an army of Silver-Eyed Warriors to defeat Salem, and then it's sort of this thing like, well, like, for the good of, it's kind of like Eren from Attack on Titan in a way, like, for the good of, like, Historia being able to get this powers of the past, like, should I let her eat me, and, like, all of that sort of stuff, and obviously the answer was no. You should not. But maybe RWBY's like, no, I'm ready to give it all up if it means that we save the world, and then they go rescue RWBY because they realize she's crazy and Ironwood's wild. Yeah, somebody was like, Cal, are you guys gonna do Attack on Titan anytime soon? And I'm like, well, Hunter's done with school now, so yes, we'll get back to it, but we have to get all our RWBY videos done first, because really that's what's going on here, you know what I mean? Exactly. And so I was sort of thinking about that. And so I think
Attack on Titan in this economy?
That would be a really interesting sort of line of storytelling, would be sort of the argument between science and magic and, like, sort of, like, using, like, RWBY's DNA and all that stuff, because I think that's a very, like, Black Mirror type thing. You know what I mean? And I love Black Mirror. And also, Watts is around, right? Who knows what deplorable thing Watts did to get kicked out of, like, the Atlas science community or whatever. You also have Dr. Merlot, who does these experiments on the Grim. Like, I feel like that if RWBY deals with new themes every volume, this volume is really sort of about like, depression. I mean, I think, to some extent, like, the stuff that's going on with Crow, different themes about perseverance and, like, the hardship, and, you know, how the past sort of affects the present and all that. Like, there are a bunch of different themes in the volume, but Miles said on RWBY Rewind yesterday, like, when people see the true theme of the volume, they'll know it when they see it, right?
Okay.
And so that implies that maybe it hasn't necessarily come to fruition.
You think
yet.
halfway through, but maybe it's only like in retrospect. Or
yeah.
I find oftentimes with the thematic content of something,
in retrospect,
sometimes
it
it helps to go.
And I know that Miles said, like, that one of the themes of the volume is to, like,
understand the future.
Understand the present. You need to understand the past, and so that was one of the themes. But I think what Miles
we see
meant,
that a lot with the Ozpin thing, and
But I think what Ozpin meant, what Miles meant on RWBY Rewind was some other theme in terms of, like, characters, because that's maybe the theme for, like, the first half, if you want to call it that. But, like, in, like, looking at Adam and all that stuff.
That explains the Adam trailer. That explains the Ozpin thing. That could explain, like, Maria talking about Silver Eyed
And
Warriors.
then Crow and his depression and all that. But I think that there's another...
Crow and possibly maybe Calxiyn and Raven.
Yeah.
Because, like, it would be interesting if they had, like, like the three of them had a talk about what
Ty
happened.
and Raven check-in.
Yeah.
But when you really think about it, I think that each volume has had multiple themes. You know what I mean? And
what would you consider the theme of, like, the first? Because I feel like seasons 1 and 2
we're a little directions.
are pretty similar. Season 3 is
I would say season 4 is the easiest to pick out, right? Because season 4 is dealing with the aftermath of what happened, right? So Yang deals with her PTSD, Blake tries to go home with her family, like RWBY moves forward.
Trying to move forward.
Weiss has to deal with her family, so it's sort of like they're all sort of dealing with the situations that they're in and all that stuff. So that's sort of like, there are themes in volume 4 that I'm like, yeah, that's easy. It's like this, this, and this, and this, and it's based off of what all the girls are going through. For volume 5, I think that the theme is, like, I think it's sort of like hope and stuff, because it's like, you know, the triumph will be ours, right? It's sort of finally fighting back and all that. They win the Battle of Haven. Like, Blake stands up to Adam, all that. And so for this, I think the theme of, like, looking at the past is a good idea, but I think that it's also maybe it'll be brought in something else, like whether that's the character depression or how people give up and like all that stuff.
The third one is that anime
will hurt you.
Anime will hurt you. No, it's
terrible.
Redheads. It is not Ginger Appreciation Day.
No.
And always avoid the tournament.
How did we get on this conversation? Because we were talking about RWBY getting cloned. Yeah, so the next, like, when they get into Atlas, the ideas can sort of be, like, sort of Ironwood's tyrannical rule. Like, Atlas is the most
You would understand the past of Atlas, and you kind of see that when you go to, you kind of see how it's a little,
Caroline Cordosia?
Yeah, with Caroline Cardoja and the place they're at right now.
Yeah, Argus.
Argus. You see that they're kind of very colonial about it.
Yeah, and so if next season they focus on sort of the dictatorship and the technology, right? Like, it would make sense that science versus magic and all that stuff would get into it.
What if Jock gets, like, overthrown by Schnee?
By Weiss?
By Jacques Schnee. Or, sorry, what if Ironwood gets overthrown by Jacques Schnee? And that's like a power grab.
That's too wild. But in terms of sticking to the cloning thing, because we have gotten off topic, I think it would be more for Atlas's theme, and this may be across 2 volumes if we stay in Atlas for longer than 1 volume, but it may sort of be like, you see sort of the imperialistic, like, Atlas will prevail, we have all the technology, and then how that technology goes on to damage sort of maybe a natural order of people's way of life, and that you could sort of see that in trying to clone RWBY, trying to reproduce magic somehow, which shouldn't necessarily, like, mix that way with science, right? Or the God of Light's gift shouldn't just be, like, on mass reproduction, and, like, you shouldn't just use people to create a mass army and all that stuff.
Or what if something you can't, there's a certain je ne sais quoi of the
Silver Eyes.
Yes,
like, Ironwood thinks, Ironwood and Atlas...
Oh god, imagine if there's a bunch of, like, malformed rubies.
Oh god.
Oh, that would be terrible.
Ironwood and Atlas think that all of their problems can be solved by the technology that Atlas has created. And so when they try to clone RWBY and it fails, Ironwood sort of realizes that there are some problems that Atlas will never be able to fix because they are magical in nature, like with Salem. Right? I think that would be a very good theme for one of the volumes. And so I really want them to do this. Like, I want them to at least try. It's like, I don't remember the movie. Is it Hunger Games? No, maybe it's Divergent. They try to lock up the girl in this, like, all-white room or something and, like, try to, like, I don't know, do something with her divergent powers and some nonsense. I don't know.
I think that was Divergent, although I only saw the first movie and I saw it a very long time ago.
But yeah, so I'm kind of
No
thinking
interest
about
in
that, like,
seeing more,
just like dragging RWBY into some like all white room or something, and like poking her and prodding her and taking her DNA and all this stuff, trying to create some superhuman
That'd
army.
be pretty fucked up.
I feel like
don't
it
know
would
how
be
to
a
feel
lesson
about
for
that.
Ironwood, though. Like, yeah,
Maybe.
maybe Atlas will prevail, but there's something more powerful than technology can manage, and that's magic. That's the magic that Salem has. That's the magic that we're all trying to fight against, because it's, you know, Salem's using it for evil. Like, I feel like that's a good theme. So, like, make it happen, Miles. Make it happen, Carrie. You know what I mean? But yeah, so I want them to try and clone her to tie into those higher themes of Atlas and how, you know, they think that they'll prevail alone because of the technological advances that they've made, but the technology cannot stop Salem. Even that can't stop Salem. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy, and we'll talk to you guys later. Bye, guys.